when faithful people care for each other. I think that's a pretty good statement. I understand the roots of narrow-mindedness, and I understand the roots of bigotry. Even in the Old Testament, there were times when God was vengeful. God destroyed populations. But, you know, the New Testament and the life of Jesus has happened since then. And I believe in a God who cares very deeply about us. And I support this pastor in his understanding that the role of faithful people is not necessarily to judge each other, but to help each other. God did not appoint us the judges. We're there to be supportive. We are there to live in that wisdom of God which nurtures and cares for each other. This is Memorial Day weekend, and we also give thanks today, this whole weekend, for those who have died caring for others, caring for us. I am deeply grieving the loss of this young man in London, the soldier, who was so barbarically killed this week. Some kind of crime of vengeance, apparently. North America, Europe, we are at a point in our civilization when we know the freedoms that we have. We know the cherished peace that prevails. We can very quickly leave these civilized settings and arrive in places like Syria, where it seems like every clan, every group hates the other. And death and torture and destruction is the order of the day. An awful narrow-mindedness. I give thanks on this weekend for those who fought to preserve the peace, to defend the freedoms, to enable the way of life that we have. We were talking following the 8 o'clock service this morning, and you remember the days when Roman Catholics did not marry Protestants. You remember those days. Our grandparents knew those days. You remember the days when if you were Italian, you should marry an Italian, right? Or if you were Polish, you should marry a Polish person. And we were talking around the communion table after the service, and everyone was talking about how we are truly the melting pot. And people were kind of talking about their pedigree: English, Irish, German, Polish, Italian, and on, Portuguese, Spanish. And people were saying, we are one family together. And that's simply not the case in so many places in the world. Your tribe hates the other tribe. Your ethnic group wants to slaughter the other ethnic group. No sense of the wisdom of God that we are all God's family. Now, I'm not saying that Western civilization is perfect, but it strives in its noblest ideals to offer freedom to everyone, to give everyone a fair shot. it strives in its noblest moments to create a society that is at peace with itself, that protects each other's lives, that looks after each other. Just as my pastor here from Oklahoma is saying, people of faith care for each other. They don't narrowly judge each other. God is revealed in our caring for each other. One of the things that I do routinely around here is I try to be a peacemaker. And every once in a while, we will have boards and committees on different wavelengths. And people will talk to each other and they will get their feelings hurt. Or they will feel like their idea has been minimized or dismissed. And my role is to mediate, help everyone calm down, help everyone understand each other's perspective, because when you are a passionate group like we are, you have strong feelings. In fact, some of you are getting together with family members over the Memorial Day weekend. You may find yourself in the role of being peacemakers in your own families, where you have to mediate differences of opinions or help people talk to each other who haven't talked to each other in quite some time. That's your role. That's what we should be doing. That's what people of faith do. They create peace. Well, I found myself in that role this week. And it's interesting, one of the little innuendos that was swirling in the congregation this week, and some of you emailed me, was that I'm not a very patriotic guy, and that there would not be any patriotic music in the worship service this Sunday. I find it amazing that the source of this rumor never came to me and talked to me, but talked to second and third parties. And it was the second and third parties who then talked to me or communicated with me. You always have somebody who likes to stir the pot. And I don't think there's ever been a holiday in this church, a patriotic holiday, when we haven't sung God Bless America or patriotic hymns. I do understand that people have different perspectives on worship, however. We have a congregation that is diverse. And some people feel strongly that in church you should sing hymns of praise to God. And some people have a hard time with the patriotic hymns. I know that. I understand that. But I always try to weave everything together and make it work. Because once again, my role is to be a peacemaker, to help everybody understand each other's perspective, so we can be family together and not just go off with our own point of view, but try to understand each other's point of view. That too is trying to live in the wisdom of God, to create a productive congregation that is able to do extraordinary things, because we're not feuding with each other, we're working together. Because we're not finding fault with each other, we're shoulder to shoulder, carrying the load. Because we're not judging each other, we're there as brothers and sisters to accomplish God's work. The mission that this church does is unusual in its breadth and depth and enormity. And I say with great humility that this coffee house ministry that began 7 years ago has been described by